Trojan fans, welcome to another edition of the Peristyle Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Abraham, joined alongside Triple Double. We call him Connor Morrissette, but his real name's Triple Double. And India Otto, we call her Automatic. We're all in studio today. It's bye week for USC. We're going to talk a little bit about USC and Illinois game. We want to get to your questions. We got a lot of questions, people concerned. If you want to email us, you can do that, podcast at uscfootball.com. You can also call or text us at 424-254-9141. And we love if you're listening across the different podcasting platforms on Apple and Spotify, you can leave a 5-star rating for the Peristyle Podcast. Love that. And you can leave a review on Apple and also on Spotify, the individual episodes. I'll take a look at that in a second and see if we got any new comments on all that. But we really appreciate the feedback there. We're also live on our YouTube channel, and you can see all of us, India running the show over there. She's our point guard, taking care of business on the show. But yeah, follow us on YouTube at Inside Troy. You can get alerts when we're going live because we go live several times a week talking USC Trojan football. But this is the podcast version of it, and we're ready to have a lot of fun with it. How you doing, Connor?
Doing well. Got a lot to talk about, even though no game this week. Still some thoughts from that Illinois game are lingering in my head, and I know a lot of people have questions, which we'll get to. So tough loss, but we'll see how USC responds against Michigan. That loss certainly makes that Michigan game all the more bigger. I guess that probably doesn't make sense grammatically.
All the more bigger. That's what you guys don't pay for because it's free, but that's what you would pay for
exactly.
if you were paying for
it just makes it a massive game.
So how are you doing, India? You doing all right?
Still recovering from the performance versus Illinois, but looking forward to their bounce back versus Michigan.
Yeah, Illinois had a bounce back against Indiana. USC now needs a bounce back when they play Michigan. Before we jump into everything, I just want to thank our longtime sponsor, Trader Joe's. I was telling the guys, my buddy Mike and I made dinner last night for us. Trader Joe's, I did the thin spaghetti, the garlic marinara sauce, and then I like to get the frozen Italian meatballs, and you can kind of heat those up in the microwave, and then I'll do the pasta, and then drain it and put the marinara sauce in there with the meatballs, mix it all up. It was really good, and you get some of the Parmesan cheese that I just so full on Trader Joe's meal. But over on TraderJoe's.com, they also have like this chicken parm recipe that looks really good using the roasted garlic marinara sauce. So check that out over on TraderJoe's.com. But it looks really yummy. And I like making the little Trader Joe's Italian dishes. There's a lot of good ones.
That looks good. I haven't had much to eat so far today, so that's
Did that just make you hungry?
Yes, definitely making my
Connor
mouth
is
water.
always he's always hungry. Yeah, but it's cool to just make the little. There's what I saw this weird. I don't know if it was somewhere on social media. So I salt the water, and I don't know, India, if you make pasta much, or Connor, I put some salt in the water, and I saw some social media thing where they show all these chefs, mostly like celebrity chefs, and they are like dumping salt, and they're like saying it's supposed to be like the Salton Sea or something. And I've never seen that before, but I saw it like somewhere on social media. I don't know if you guys.
I don't put that much salt in it, but I definitely put salt.
Yeah, but apparently you're supposed to
put a lot.
Like a lot of salt.
Jeez.
But there were some people disputing that, but there was a lot of celebrity chefs. I mean, they were pouring salt into it. So just FYI out there. Maybe someone in the chat can. Noted. Some chef in the chat and be like, yeah, salt the crap out of it. But anyway, I saw that after I made it. I'm like, I didn't put that much salt in there. But I put some. All right. So we got a lot of stuff. Where do you want to start, India? We got.
Let's start with the food poisoning conspiracy theory going around.
Oh, I meant to get a picture of a tinfoil hat, for to put up on there. I didn't get to do that, but yes. So as you know, USC defensive back Kamari Ramsey did not get to play. Lincoln Riley addressed it afterwards. He had a really bad case of food poisoning. I think was throwing up at 6 a.m, according to Riley. We started to hear that it wasn't just Kamari Ramsey, after the game, and we had talked to different sources, and some other players were affected. No one as bad as Ramsey. So essentially, there were some dudes out there that weren't 100%, but they went out and played. And Connor can fill in stuff too. But that's essentially what we had heard, talking to different sources, and then these like conspiracy theories started to come out that like the whole team was sick and Illinois did it on purpose. And all, I mean, there was like just really sort of crazy stuff. And I guess, to be fair, it seems like, well, why did USC go lose the game? Well, here's the excuse. They all had food poisoning. And we kept asking people and no one had said that was the case. It was like, yeah, a couple of dudes were affected, but that was it. And, it wasn't that big of a deal. But, you play that poorly, and then Lincoln Riley was asked about it directly because it started to make the rounds. And, Lincoln Riley put that to bed and said, no, it wasn't some widespread thing. There were a couple of dudes affected. It wasn't an excuse. It just – so I don't know. But there's some people out there that just really want to believe the only reason USC played poorly on defense was because everybody had food poisoning and somehow Illinois orchestrated it all. So you can believe whatever you want. We're telling you, I've been doing this 30 years. I think we got a great staff, the best staff that's ever assembled. We have more people at every game practice. We talk to more people than anybody. And we don't just talk to like a player parent. We talk to like a lot of people, everyone around the program. And that's what they've been telling us before. Lincoln Riley said the exact same thing. So if you want to believe something else, go right ahead. But what we're saying, at least what I'm saying, is that's not the case. Not everybody was sick. That's not why they lost. But just wanted to kind of address that. I don't know if you want to add anything, Connor.
Well, we have one chat person, Charles, saying it was more than a couple guys.
Okay.
So it was a few players, and it was Kamari Ramsey, obviously. It's been out there now. Eric Gentry was affected. So the two best defensive players on the team having food poisoning is not great. And we're not saying that it didn't have an impact. But it was not widespread, and Lincoln Riley was honest yesterday and laid out that it was only a few guys, a few staff members, a few players, and that was it. And that's what's frustrating, Ryan. This excuse, while it's valid, it for some fans has totally let the team off the hook, and they just didn't play very well on the defensive side of the ball. And of course, when your two best players are sick, that has an impact. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I think they were outcoached defensively, and Illinois had that nastiness to them that USC couldn't match. There were a lot more factors that went into it than just a couple guys being sick. And to Ryan's point, the frustrating thing is Lincoln Riley comes out and says that it was only a few players, and then we report that. But we also talk to a myriad of other people. It's not just, okay, the coach said this is true. Like, what do you think we're doing here? Do you think we just don't check anything else? Like, that's what's so frustrating about the whole thing. We talked to multiple people, and one source told me last night, let me pull it up here, I've seen some stuff out there that isn't correct. The food poisoning was not widespread. It was not a widespread thing. It affected a few guys. It certainly had an impact on the game, but it was not the end-all, be-all reason they lost. There were a bunch of other factors that went into it, and people need to just wrap their heads around that.
Yeah, I know we're getting apparently we're not able to put up the YouTube chats on the screen, so we apologize for that. We'll figure out what was going on with that for the next episode, but we'll try to log some of the questions and get to them later on. But so one of the things, and I tell us, sourcing and all this stuff, just because you hear something doesn't mean, okay, we see people hear something and then they just run with it and then they extrapolate and they expand on it and all this stuff. If you were like best friends with Lincoln Riley and you talk to him all the time about the team, do you think you'd still know everything about like recruiting? Like, no, like you need to talk to multiple people, even if you're talking to Lincoln Riley. Like, you're going to get his point of view if you knew everything he knew. But there's assistants on his staff that know some stuff that haven't disseminated to him yet. There's a lot. Like, you need to talk to multiple people. And everything I hear is, well, these are what some players' parents are saying. Okay, so there's some player parents that feel like this was more widespread. So that's what people are running with. And you have to take this with a grain of salt as far as like talking to who you're talking to. We've talked to plenty of players' parents, but just because a player's parent tells us something, do you think they can be the worst sources sometimes because they're saying something about that's going to help their kid versus the other kid, that they're competing against. So you can get stuff, but a lot of times players don't know what's going on. Now you're going to know if they're sick or not, and they don't tell their parents everything. And sometimes the parents have a different view of it. So I get it. There's some people talk about, oh, well, a player's parent said this or that. Yes, they did. Does that mean that that's 1,000% true? No. And they, I'm not saying they're lying or anything, but they're going to get a different perspective of what's going on. You got to talk to people around the program, the administration, coaching staff, everywhere, not just a couple players' parents said this. So that's all we're saying. I get it. Like, and some people just want to believe it for whatever reason. Like, they needed a reason why USC played poorly. Like, it certainly didn't help. It didn't help that it was a 9 a.m. kickoff. And there's a lot of, small factors. But if you're going to put all your eggs into everyone was sick with food poisoning, that's why they played poorly. Like, you didn't watch the Purdue game. They gave up a lot of yards. And this is a defense that we've seen have issues struggling against mediocre teams. Illinois is a better team that was cornered and pissed off and wanted to play better and pushed USC around in the trenches and all that. So, I mean, it's not a zero factor, but it's certainly not something that we need to be talking the first 10 minutes of the show about.
This reminds me of when we release our depth chart before the season, and there were so many USC fans when we had Alex Graham as a starting nickel because he was supposed to be the starting nickel before he got hurt that just didn't believe it. They thought, well, DJ Harvey, he could play nickel, or Marcellus Williams, it's going to be one of those guys. It's not going to be a freshman. And it just goes back to what we were saying. Like, sometimes we'll tell you if we're projecting, but sometimes we hear things that are 100% fact and accurate, and we check around and we do our job. Like, that's our job, to get the best possible picture of what happened. And
I'm sorry, you don't want Alex Graham to be the starting nickel, but that's what we were hearing. Yes.
Exactly. That's what we were told. And this kind of reminds me of that, where it's like, I don't want to believe it because I think something else is true. And we talked to a bunch of people, and this is what we were told. So, hey, if it did affect the whole team and it was a major reason why we lost, we'd tell you that. But overwhelmingly, from every source that I've communicated with, 3 to 4 in the past 48 hours has said the same thing. So that's all I have on that, and I'm excited to move on.
Yeah, and there one real quick thing, just kind of a side story. Like, we love, okay, so if you guys aren't a member of the Peristyle, USCfootball.com, go sign up. It's certainly worth it. There's a lot of different opinions, a lot of informed people, a lot of non-informed people getting very strong. There's just a lot to take in. But sometimes, like, a conspiracy sort of, like, galvanizes people, and they want it to be, so, like, USC was really talking to John Gruden or whatever it was. Like, there's things like that just become super popular. And then it's funny for us, like, if there was some crazy rumor that everyone wants to believe in, and then we come from the press conference and, like, nope, this is what the athletic director said this, and there's, like, no reason for them to be, like, it's just truth. Like, what this conspiracy theory was is just completely shot down. Like, no, we never talked to John Gruden or whatever it was, something like that. And then, but the people get so tied up in that rumor being true that they're like, oh no, the athletic director, the head coach, the president of the United States, they don't know what they're talking about. We know, like, this is really happening, So it's funny to see that. And you're like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, here's the real facts. Like, I've written down, like, this is actual life, not what your conspiracy theory was. And, like, they don't want to believe it. And I'm getting a little sense of this too. They're just like, no, some guy on YouTube said that everybody was sick, so I'm going to believe that. I'm like, okay, like, believe whatever you want.
I'm with you, Ryan. Let's move on.
Yes, sorry.
What else do we got, India?
Injury updates?
Oh, yeah, what do we got,
injury
Connor?
updates on the team? O'Connor.
Yes. Kilian O'Connor is going to be out for at least a couple games, so Big General Reed will be in there against Michigan and Notre Dame, two of the best defensive fronts USC will play. That is a big part of the equation. Big General stayed late at practice yesterday and was working with Maiava and Luke Heward on a few things, so they're getting him ready. He had a couple of mistakes against Illinois. The penalty was really costly, of course, and he had a few high snaps, a couple protection things, so we'll see just how this bye week helps him because he's going to be the guy for the next couple of weeks. That was the big update. Jacoby Lane came out to practice in shells. So did Elijah Page. So did DeCarlos Nicholson. A lot of the guys who were banged up for Illinois, it looks like they're on the right track. The fact that Lane played in the second half was good. So I do think USC will get healthy and we'll get some guys back. There were a few defensive linemen who didn't practice yesterday, but we kind of got the feeling that it was more of a precautionary thing than those guys being out for a longer period of time. Alex Graham, the hope is that he could potentially play against Michigan, but I look at D. Reddick and think that he did a lot against Illinois to maybe be the starting nickel and move Kamari Ramsey back. Ramsey was out there too after the food poisoning thing. The one guy who we didn't get a great prognosis on was Bryan Jackson, who it sounds like will be out for a couple more weeks and potentially longer. So that's too bad with him, but everything else seems to be trending in the right direction, and we'll be back at practice today and have more updates today. I anticipate USC getting a lot of guys back from Michigan, which is obviously a good thing.
Good stuff there. Yeah, bye week. It's one of those things, too, if you're just out there checking things out, like some guys might be just getting a rest, it's a good time to sort of self-reflect, but you get guys healthy. And then, of course, going into the really important Michigan game, which we'll do a bunch of previews and stuff for next week. And it's a get-right opportunity.
It's a huge game.
You have to do this. You just saw Illinois get right. Like, you lost by 53, embarrassed. And you turned everything around, 9 sacks down to 1, playing better on defense. Like USC's offense, we'll get to that in a minute. I mean, they made some spectacular plays, and but Illinois played much tougher. They didn't let Luke Altmaier get sacked. They just, moved the ball well, way too efficiently, which we'll get into in a second. And so I think it's possible. You go on the road, different kind of experience. USC lost, last second field goal, but Illinois got absolutely blown out. So USC was close, right? Like you were in it. It should be easier as a get-right situation to be like, all right, we're going to come back. Very similar Michigan team, like maybe not the most explosive on offense. You got a young quarterback, but really good defensively. It's going to play physical football. This is your opportunity. No food poisoning, no 9 a.m. kickoff. It's going to be a 4:30 kickoff on NBC, by the way. That was one thing we were going to mention that was announced earlier this week. So no excuses. Just come out and play well. It's going to be up to the coaches to get these guys ready. You have to make this a get-right situation and not, falling, continue to slide down this hill that we've seen as the opposition got tougher. The team should be playing worse, and now you got to fix that and stop the bleeding a little bit and get things going.
We saw what Michigan looked like on the road against a good Oklahoma team where Bryce Underwood only completed 9 passes, and Justice Haynes had a huge run of 75 yards, which skewed his stats a little bit, so he finished with 19 carries for 125 yards and the score. But Michigan really struggled on offense in that game. They were under 300 yards of total offense. Against the Cupcakes, Michigan's run the ball really well, and their rushing attack is phenomenal, with Justice Haynes averaging over 8 yards a carry, Jordan Marshall averaging over 5 yards a carry, Bryce Underwood, the true freshman quarterback, averaging just under 8 yards per carry. This is a game for USC where the defensive line will be challenged, and after what we saw against Illinois, it's a great point, Ryan. The defensive line, it's probably a stretch to say they were embarrassed against Illinois. It wasn't like the Indiana game, but they didn't play well, and Lincoln Riley said that much yesterday. Everyone's saying that because it's true. They didn't get the push that we were looking for. No sacks, no tackles for loss. It's very surprising. So they had their stinker. And now you get Michigan in a couple of weeks, and they are known for that bruising offensive line. They're going to run it down your throat. They have a true freshman quarterback, like I said, who they probably won't want to put the ball in his hands too much. Like, what Michigan is going to do. Can you stop it? And it's gut check time for that group because they laid such an egg last week. We'll see. It could go one of two ways. I think they'll respond. I think they'll be better, but it's a tough matchup for USC in that regard where you're going up against a team that has a good defense, and USC's offense, of course, will have success in that game, and they'll score some points, but it's the best defense USC has played so far this season. It's going to come down to how the Trojans stop the run, and we'll see how they respond because I don't think anyone's feeling very good about the defense after last week.
Yeah, Sherrod Moore, offensive line guy. You think they're not going to be tough up front. So I think,
And you think they're not going to see what Illinois did and did the same thing? Man, if I was on that defensive line, we got to get back out there. We got to set the record straight. It was that kind of performance that just leaves you scratching your head oh my God, they just got bullied. And now you're going up against an offensive line and a rushing attack that has a chance to bully you again. Is it going to be the same old story, or are they going to bounce back? It's a huge game.
Yeah. That might be a good transition for our defensive talk.
Yep. I was just about to say, let's move on to the defense advanced stats.
India keeps
Keyword,
us in line.
bad.
Yeah, they're bad. So our RJ Abadia does a deep dive into some of the advanced stats, which I love, kind of checking some of those things out. And if you're not into it, I mean, I think you can, there's some simpler ones, there's some more complex ones, whatever. But it's VIP content over at uscfootball.com. If you're not a subscriber, go over there and you can check it out. And there's some awesome stuff there. But the one number that kind of stood out to me, just when we have the stats through the stats broadcast, and they'll give you some decent drive stats, like how many 3-and-outs. Like USC only had the one 3-and-out that was forced to punt. But Illinois, just if you look at the Illinois, the drive charts, I think the first 3 drives, it was 10 plays, 11 plays, 10 plays, or 11 plays, 10 plays. Each of them were double-digit plays. One of them ended in a fumble, but Illinois wasn't getting stopped. And then the drive success rate was 83%. So, you are not doing your job to, basically slow this team down. There was a couple, turnovers, and you'd say lucky, but the odds of those turnovers happening like they did aren't very good. Eric Gentry did an amazing job punching that ball out. But, I mean, that's one of those things, 95 times out of 100, that first fumble going in the end zone is going to be a touchdown. But the crazy part, even with those turnovers that took points away from Illinois, the points per drive. So basically, every time you have a drive, if you have 11 drives, how many points did you score? How many points are you earning per drive? And Illinois were almost 4 points a drive. It's 3.78 points per drive, which is crazy. So you are averaging more than a field goal every time you touch the ball, and the numbers are not great in the two something range, and that's where I think USC is on the season. But it was really, really bad for Illinois. And I think you see it in your eyes where you're like, they're just not getting any stops. And I think on the road it's been a problem. I need to go back and look at the Purdue game, but it wasn't great either. But for Purdue, there was 2 drives that were turned over in the end zone. Illinois, the same things. And I think that skews the numbers a little bit because you're basically taking points away. But 3.78 is just awful as far as points per drive. You can't have a defense giving that up and expect to win any games.
No, and they weren't good at any of the 3 levels on the defense where we saw explosive pass plays. Illinois was over 5 yards per carry. So we'll see how the team responds, because defensively that was a clunker. And now they have a week to get healthier. Getting Ramsey back will be huge. Getting all that food poisoning out of the system will, of course, help. Not to bring that up again, but that will make a difference, of course. Not trying to say it won't. And it's gut check time. What do you have defensively? Because I think we all agree that we believe the team should be better defensively than they've shown. And I understand the injuries in the secondary, but I'm getting sick of people saying they don't have the players needed to be good. Yes, Desmond Stevens is inexperienced, and you have some inexperienced guys at cornerback, but the defensive line, they've put a lot of resources into making that unit better and being able to compete in the Big Ten there. And against Illinois, it was uncompetitive. And Eric Gentry is playing at an all-American pace right now. Ramsey in the secondary makes a big difference. If you can go back to safety, that'll be huge. D. Reddick, maybe he's going to be the starting nickel now. I like what I saw from him against Illinois. Bishop Fitzgerald's had some nice moments. Christian Pierce, Lincoln Riley said yesterday, is playing some of the best football on the team. They have good enough players to be better than they've been, and that's what's been so disappointing. So much is riding on the Michigan game, and college football is unpredictable. If they lose that game and win the rest of the games, which I don't think is likely, but you never say never. I just think if they lose that Michigan game, though, then you could start to see a slide, and it might not be pretty. It's a massive, massive game, and the defense needs to respond. We know the offense will do what they got to do. That's just been what it's been like this year, which was a surprise to me. I thought they might have some growing pains. They've been awesome. It's up to the defense to just respond, and they got to play better, because if they don't, USC could be in for a long season.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things where you need to bounce back. There's no, you get paid a lot of money. This is a very expensive staff. It's a very expensive roster. We talked about it all offseason. So many great decisions were made. I think the administration did so much to try to help the program, getting that personnel staff, new strength and conditioning, everything they put into the program, it now comes down to win games. And I think if you would have said earlier on the season, USC's 4-1 and a last-second field goal loss to Illinois on the road, I think people would have sort of expected that. You thought 4-0. But the way things played out, and you're like, the fact that Illinois doesn't look like a top 10 team, they're good. It's a good team. Maybe they're better than we think. And maybe, a lot of the Illinois fans that were, ranting at me about my rant was saying like, oh, the Indiana game was an anomaly. I'm like, 53-point loss is like, there's something there. Like that's not, a lot of stuff has to happen for that. But yeah, you can have one bad game, but usually it's not but losing that badly. Like there's something, behind the scenes there, whether something else. But I think in this case, it's like Illinois was a much more winnable game than we thought going in, and you just played poorly and fairly lucky to be leading that game in the last, 2 minutes anyway. But I feel like that's one of those situations that, yes, before the season you thought you'd be on the right path, but USC sort of trending the wrong way. The way the schedule's set up is build on it. You can get better once the competition gets better, but competition got better and play went down. So that's why I think the Michigan game is super important because, Oregon looks like the number one team in the country right now, potentially. Notre Dame starts off 0-2, but now they look really good. We thought those games were like going to be tough to win, and they still will be. And USC will have a shot, but you've already lost Illinois. If you're going to, those two are going to be tough. If you can't beat Illinois on the road, you can come back and win those, but we'll see. You got to beat Michigan. You got to beat Nebraska on the road. You got to beat Iowa at home. So that's why it's just important to be like, whatever you did wrong, you got to put that aside, figure it out, fix it. You can't have 9-10 penalties a game. You can't have all that crap that was going on if you want to beat some of these teams. You have to play well. You have to be buttoned up, and everything's going to work well. And we just didn't see that against Illinois. So this is the opportunity. You have a bye week. Coaching staff get together, fix your problems, and go out and just play a good football game.
The last thing I'll say on this, it's so great how great the offense is playing. Obviously, no one is debating that. Jayden Maiava is taking huge steps forward, and that offense is firing. They look really, really good. We're going to talk about how Maiava is the number one quarterback in the country right now based on some of the stats. They really couldn't be doing much better. The disappointing thing is we thought that this team had a chance to be different than the classic Lincoln Riley coach team where the defense would be better, they wouldn't be as penalized, and it's just going back to what he's always been, which is an explosive offense, a defense with major question marks, and they're undisciplined with a lot of penalties. You hope that with all these changes that were made, you would get a different brand of football, but right now it looks like we're back to offense has to score 1 million points and defense has to just get out of its own way and make some plays to help the team win. They're not shutting anyone down, and I thought we were going to get more of a defense that had the potential to shut some teams down. But in the Big Ten, Michigan State had some explosive plays and we're up over 30 points. If you take out the 2 red zone turnovers for Purdue, that game could have been a little bit closer. And Illinois, USC forced them to punt once. I thought defensively the team would take a step forward and it would look different than the classic Lincoln Riley coach team that, yes, of course, has had some nice wins. They've made the playoffs at Oklahoma. There's a lot to like there, but we were hoping to see some changes philosophically, and we just haven't, and that's been a surprise, and I think it's been a disappointment.
Yeah, not even shutting anyone down, just not stopping any drives. You
No
can't
punts.
stop any drives. Holy crap! By accident, you can stop a drive every once in a while, and that's not happening.
Well, Connor kind of segued us into the next topic. Let's talk about the other side of the ball. How good Jayden Maiava has been at quarterback.
Yeah, he's great. Obviously, Makai Lemon leading the nation receiving yards, and that's without a 75-yard touchdown that was taken off the books. He's special, but Jayden Maiava is playing really well, and so Bill Connolly does a great job with the advanced stats over at ESPN. I think he used to be SB Nation or something, and he's ESPN now, but he does
a great job.
SP Plus and ranks everybody, and I don't know where do you know where USC's ranked in the SP Plus? I think all Big Ten teams are the top 4 teams or something in SP Plus.
They're ranked high.
So he did a piece on so he has his own quarterback rankings and stuff. He has Jayden Maiava as the number 1 quarterback in the country. His QBR is 93.4, 1,587 passing yards, 80 rushing yards, 15 total TDs through 5 games. He said he was let down by his defense against Illinois on Saturday, but Maiava is comfortably number 1 in the total QBR through September. And among QBR qualified quarterbacks, he's one of only 2 to rank in the top 20 in both completion rate, 70.5%, and yards per completion, 16.2. So Illinois was comfortably his worst game of the season, and he still threw for 364 yards with a total QBR of 85.5. So pretty ridiculous. So to have like the high completion percentage, but also a high yards per completion, that's not, you see guys that are just dump off specialists and they're going to have that inflated number. He's putting the ball down the field and throwing it really well. Like his deeper balls have been really accurate. So just wanted to kind of point that out. It makes it even more frustrating. It was similar to like 2022 where you have the special season by Caleb Williams and it sort of gets spoiled by a poor defensive performance. Like just have an average defense last Saturday and you're winning that game. But he's playing the way the offense is playing, including a couple road games, only 1 turnover through 5 games. He's playing special right now.
USC's SP Plus offensive rating is number 1 in the country. Their defensive rating is number 50. So it's kind of what it's always been. What's going on? We were promised better defense. I thought we were getting better defense. But
do you know where USC SP Plus the number is?
Yeah, they're 12th in the country.
And what's Illinois by just the?
Illinois is 25th.
Okay. So, I mean, that's when you talk about, like, USC should have beat Illinois. Like, that's, they're still ranked significantly ahead of them with the advanced metrics. I think the Big Ten teams are all at the top, right? Like, is that
Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, Penn State, and then Texas Tech at 5.
Crazy. So the Big Ten is very, very top heavy. And USC only plays one of those 4 teams up there. So,
we'll see, though.
Nice.
These numbers evolve. Like USC, the schedule gets a lot harder. I imagine the offense will have a chance to stay at number 1, but I have a hard time seeing it finish there. And then defensively, hopefully they can just tread water and stay at 50. But that could get worse, too. The fact that USC's entering the most challenging part of its schedule now and they got the 50th ranked defense, like I kind of feel like it's going to go the other way rather than see improvement. Hopefully I'm wrong on that.
Yeah. Cool. If you are live in the YouTube chat, like I said, for whatever reason, we can't put them up on the screen. I'm trying to look at them and grab them, though, so we can get to your questions later. So if you have a question, just put question in there, and I will pull it up. And it's good. We got an active chat. Thanks if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. But, yeah, we've heard this story before. Like, offense looks special, defense not so special. And it was weird. Last year it was a different story. The offense took a big step back, and the defense was playing a lot better. And I'm not exactly sure how it went back to this, but here we are.
Well, I think inexperienced players are having a hard time picking up Lynn's system. I think that's clear, where Desmond Stevens has done some nice things, but it's clear that he's still learning on the job. And the cornerbacks, Conley and Marcellus Williams, again, they've done some nice things, but they don't totally understand this defense. And I think when you watch the games, that's pretty clear. A lot of guys are on their heels and they're kind of reacting to stuff rather than attacking it. You look at when Lynn's had his most success, it's only been 3 years, but at UCLA that first year, the secondary, it was all experienced guys outside of Kamari Ramsey. And then last year at USC, I mean, Easton Mascarenas-Arnold, Akili Arnold, Mason Cobb, Jalen Smith, Jacoby Covington, all guys who've played a lot of college football. I don't think it's a coincidence that USC's young at some spots and those guys are struggling. Lynn's defense is an NFL-style defense. It can be hard to learn, and that's been a problem.
Yeah, and I'm a little shocked, too, is how the linebacker play just hasn't been good enough, and I really felt last year – no, they were experienced guys, right? Like you had Easton Mascarenas-Arnold and Cobb and all those guys. But they didn't play well the year before, and then you bring in Matt Entz, and they really played well. And I thought that would kind of continue with Rob Ryan. And I'm not saying he's a problem or anything, but it's just we're now, he really was speaking highly of this group of guys. And even though they didn't have a lot of experience, he felt that they were going to be making a lot of plays. And so far, they're really not.
Outside of Gentry.
Gentry's made some big plays, and maybe he was slowed a little bit in the Illinois game, but there was, we were watching our buddy Jeremy Werner, who was on the show last week, kind of previewing things. Like, they do a really nice film study, and they were looking at the secondary for Illinois, and they were like, hey, they're playing pretty well, but USC's offense is just so good. But if you looked at the offensive side for Illinois, it was like everything was the linebackers doing the wrong thing or getting taken out of plays, and it just wasn't what you would expect. And so, yeah, I that's a little shocking to me. I thought the linebacker play would be better. Certainly, I thought the secondary play would be better. And we've seen the defensive line play well at times, but in this game against a team that was really struggling on the offensive line, they got pushed around a lot. So there's concerns at all the levels. That's why you get paid a lot of money. They got to figure this out.
It's kind of like Penn State and Notre Dame last year, where USC had enough talent to be in those games, but defensively, they just couldn't make the key play. So I just hope that this defense, they're not front runners. I want to see how they do against a good team. USC has not defensively had a really strong performance against a good team since LSU, and that was when the team had all the time in the world to prep, and they could just throw all the resources at a game prep heading into the year, and they did a really nice job in that situation. But on a week-to-week basis, defensively, it hasn't been good. And that was like the Illinois game. It was such a big test. It was like, okay, I didn't think the Illinois offense was very explosive. They hadn't been all season. And then against USC, they were crazy explosive, and it was comparable to what Western Illinois and the FCS did against Illinois, which was crazy. So I didn't expect that big of a drop-off. We need to see this defense play well against a solid offense, and the next opportunity is Michigan, because outside of that LSU game, they just haven't done enough against good teams, and I think this unit has enough talent to be better. So it's a head-scratcher for sure.
Yeah.
Should we get into a quick break before we get into voicemails and emails and all the chat comments?
I love it, Automatic. Let's do it.
Let's do it. We are back. Peristyle Podcast, also live on YouTube and Facebook. Unfortunately, I am not getting any YouTube comments, but Ryan is doing a great job favoriting them, so we'll get to them. And let's first start off with the voicemail we got.
Yeah, we got a voicemail.
Some emails.
Let's go.
All right, here's our voicemail.
Hey, Ryan, I like it when you said that our players are making double the NIL money of the Illinois players. Our coaching staff probably makes double or more. All this money's being spent, and the best defensive coordinator in the country can't stop the run up the middle for the whole game. You would think they would stuff it sometimes, like put some extra bodies inside. Why am I trying to think for them? They're getting paid too much money to be this unsuccessful. Sorry, I had to call twice.
That's okay, Curtis. Yeah, he called in for the Harvey Hyde show, but his money rant, yeah, it's true. Like, USC spent a lot of money on this roster, and I don't think this is a situation where they just spent money poorly. I think they were wise in their investments, but there was a lot of resources behind this coaching staff and this roster. If you had D'Anton Lynn, who was a hot coordinator, even a few years ago, like if Mike Bone or Pat Hayden or Lynn Swann was the AD, Penn State would have just hired him away. Now, maybe that's the wrong decision. I don't know. Like, I still, think D'Anton Lynn can be a really great defensive coordinator. But the point is that someone who's a national power came after your defensive coordinator, who that was his alma mater. Like, if no one would be saying, like, I can't believe USC lost D'Anton Lynn, because it's like, obviously it makes sense. Penn State's going to be potentially the number one team in the country. He played football there. And USC stepped up and got him to stay, which is pretty crazy. And then Penn State goes out and gets the defensive coordinator from the team that just won the national championship. So Penn State wasn't messing around. That tells you from behind the scenes that USC, from an administration standpoint, they're not messing around. They're willing, if they feel this is the guy, or this is the player they want, they are willing to put resources behind it. So, yes, they've spent a lot of money, and I think they've done, from what, my assessment, they've been pretty wise about how they're doing it. So that's why it's disappointing to know your roster's probably double the cost of what Illinois had, and you still got pushed around.
I think they have enough talent to be better than they've shown, but the transfer portal class certainly isn't aging very well right now when you look at who they brought in. Jason Johnson out for the year with an injury, so not his fault. Zach Williams has been hurt. Tamir Robinson at linebacker, not doing much. Kennedy Urlacher at safety, not doing much. Kevin Longstreet at nickel. He's been an emergency nickel, got benched against Illinois. Bishop Fitzgerald's been good. Prince Strawn hasn't given you anything. Big General Reed didn't win the starting center job. Sam Heward, third-string quarterback. DJ Wingfield, ineligible. Caden Chittenden, hurt, not kicking. Jamal Jarrett playing single-digit snaps per game. Keyshawn Silver, been disappointing. Eli Sanders has been nice. DJ Harvey, been disappointing. You could have used a little bit more help than that from the portal.
Yeah,
and
like Wayman Jordan's a stud. And
so he's not listed on the 24/7 transfers. He was a JUCO.
Way to leave out the best one.
Yes, okay, so sorry. Did not mean to do that. He's been the best, of course, obviously.
So negative, Connor.
Hey, blame our parent site here. Looking at that, though, that's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was high expectations for Wingfield, and he's, ineligible. A couple of guys you thought would play a big role got hurt. Some other guys you thought would be good haven't been that good or haven't contributed as much. So, yeah, and it's not been as helpful, but I think they had a pretty good nucleus of what they brought back.
Yes, and I agree with that, and that's why I think they still should have beaten Illinois. But, what an opportunity they had to add a couple guys here and there to just get you over the top, and it looks like right now, 5 games in, that hasn't happened. We'll see the second half of the season how it all transpires. But remember when David Bailey entered the portal and USC hit us over the head with "we're fine with our edge rushers"? Well, they could have used one more edge rusher. That would have been huge.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Let's get into some emails.
Yes.
Okay. First email. Obviously, the offensive performance was masked by penalties, missed opportunities, and the ineptness of the defense. While all the chatter, rightfully so, is about how the defense failed against the real opponent, what did you take away from the offense as they also faced their first real opponent? Also, I didn't follow Riley before SC, so I'm not sure if the extended use of the tight ends this year is something he's traditionally done and just got back to this year. Do you think the heavier involvement of the tight end room is a way of making up for Riley's lack of trust in the receiver room aside from Lemon and Lane? Both tight ends and even Eli Sanders have more catches on the year thus far than Hines, our so-called third receiver. Thanks and fight on, Dylan and Albuquerque.
Using the tight ends more, first of all, those guys have earned it, but second of all, their usage in the pass game isn't by accident. If USC had more receivers outside of Lemon and Lane, we'd see those guys get targeted more, but they don't. So
he's had good tight ends, like Mark Andrews.
Yeah, he has had good tight ends.
Like at Oklahoma,
And the first part of the question, I don't remember, but it's like I'm not criticizing him for using the tight ends more. Like, those guys have been really good, and you got to go with what you have. Do I wish they had one more receiver? Just imagine if Deuce Robinson was still here. That would have been awesome. That really would have unlocked some stuff. But when everyone's healthy, Lemon, Lane, Tanuk Hines, and then those tight ends, that's a damn good offense, and that's enough. But remind me, India, what was the beginning of that
The first
email?
part was, what did you take away from the offense as they also faced their first real opponent?
Yeah.
I took away that Zach Hansen continues to blow me away with what he's done with that offensive line, and Lincoln Riley deserves credit for that too. The fact that USC went down 2 starting offensive linemen, one before the game in Page and the other during the game in Kilian O'Connor, and still scored 3 touchdowns on the last 3 drives in the fourth quarter. That's huge. The line has been night and day from the past couple of years. The development there is real. That's great to see. Justin Taunu'u filling in at left tackle took some lumps. He wasn't great, but it was just so much better than, I think, if there were 2 injuries to starters in past years, it would have been a dumpster fire, and USC held up well on the offensive line. Jayden Maiava continues to take that step forward. He's been awesome. Wayman Jordan's just got to hold on to the ball. Besides that, he's been really good. And Makai Lemon is playing like a Biletnikoff winner and a Heisman Trophy candidate right now. So the offense is going to keep USC in a lot of games, and they'll have chances to win a lot of these games. It's going to be on the defense, I think, to make some stops as time goes on. USC shouldn't ever be out of many of these games with how good the offense is.
If you took a picture and we did have a picture of the offensive line. I think it was Illinois or something, but
Michigan State.
The Michigan State game, yeah. So this is later in the game. If you took a picture of the start of the game of the offensive line, you see number 77 there playing right tackle, Lonnie Noah, right guard. If you took a picture of the second half of the Illinois game, he'd be the only guy in the same spot. So that's crazy to go for, in less than 2 games, you have one dude playing the exact same spot. So because of the injury to Elijah Page, it made 3 guys move. The 2 guys that didn't move were the center and the right guard, and then your center goes down. So that's a huge difference. And the fact that we're not talking about how poorly the offensive line played, which would be excusable. You have one dude that was the same as the starter for the week before. Again, Zach Hansen, Hansen, a testament to him and what they've been able to do. They're keeping it together, even though they've had to shuffle a whole lot just in the last couple of weeks.
And the offense, we spend so much time on the defense, but yeah, the offense deserves a lot of credit, especially Maiava and the offensive line, because I think we all thought Lemon would be pretty good. We all were under the impression Wayman Jordan was going to have a big year. The question marks were Maiava, is he going to make better decisions? And he certainly has done that. And then the offensive line, can they protect? Can they run block? Can it look better than the start of the past 2 seasons where it did not look very good? And that's been, yes. So before that Illinois game, I've gotten a lot of hey, what were you thinking with that prediction? Which I get, but the whole question mark that I had, the biggest questions were Maiava and the line, and they've been great. And I just thought that USC would be able to have a better defense. And if Maiava was better and the offensive line was better, that to me made the ceiling higher. And then against Illinois to go out and just totally pee down your leg defensively, that was surprising to me. I thought as they entered the second part of the schedule, we would see some, I don't know if adjustments are the right word, but just see more intensity. The fact that the defensive line got off to such a slow start, that to me is inexcusable. I was expecting, okay, national TV, it's our time to go set this record straight. And for that not to happen, that's what you get on Saturday when they lose by 2 points and the offense plays really well.
Yeah, what a visual there.
Yeah, exactly. Our next email. I was at the game. It appeared to me that Maiava lobs the ball all the time. I understand the touch pass. This isn't that. Plays where the ball should have been zipped into the receiver's chest were lobbed, occasionally resulting in an underthrow or forcing the receiver to slow down to catch the ball. Am I imagining this? Your thoughts, Kevin?
You are.
The touch passes for some of his best throws.
That
Lemon.
Third down, they broke that down. It's he had pressure in his face, throws it over one safety. You have a corner and a safety coming together, and he puts it right in there. And they even mentioned in the film study, he put it in a perfect spot where Makai didn't have to jump in the air to get it, because then he would have got destroyed. Now, he threw some high balls in this game that
he missed some guys.
Yeah,
that was a hell of a throw.
There was that
right on
I don't know
money.
what you're gonna There's no complaints about that. That's NFL throw all day long. Some of his those ones, the 2 touchdowns to Makai Lemon, those weren't that was gunned into his back shoulder, and both of the plays they made
perfect
ridiculous.
Spots. Yep.
It's too early to have this conversation, but as the returning star quarterbacks continue to suck, Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik, Lenora Sellers has heard he hasn't sucked, but Maiava being the best quarterback, it's going to be interesting. He'll have a decision to make if he continues on this trajectory. Will he go to the draft? Will he not? If he comes back, what does that mean for Longstreet? All of a sudden, with him taking this huge step forward, that is an interesting conversation, and I hope he continues to ball out, and I'd love to see him in the NFL next year. I did not think we'd be having that conversation after 5 games in 2025, but here we are. He's been that good.
Yeah, I did an interview this week for the Heisman Trophy podcast. I'm a Heisman voter, and they interviewed Jayden Maiava, and they wanted me to present some color, so I interviewed for that. So the Heisman Trophy people are interviewing him because he's been that good. There was one article, I forget, someone tweeted, it was some article, I can't remember who it was, but it was basically hey, who's the good quarterbacks out there? They're Jayden Maiava? They're not sure, who's the best quarterbacks? Because all the dudes that you thought were going to be great haven't been great, So there's some guys that, are emerging from out of nowhere. A lot of people like Ty Simpson from Alabama, Carson Beck sort of reinventing himself.
Simpson's playing better.
Yeah, Simpson's playing better. CJ Carr for Notre Dame, starts off 0-2, but playing well. But when you're not sure who the best quarterback is, you're maybe it's Jayden Maiava. Like that's literally like what the tweet was. I apologize. I don't remember who put it out there, but you're like, who's the best? Maiava maybe? Like
wasn't that Bill Connolly?
Was that Connolly's thing?
So.
Oh, okay, that what it was. Okay. Well, that because his was a ranking. Okay, yeah, maybe that was what it was. But yeah, he's playing that well.
I said Maiava, I guess.
Yeah, Maiava, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so that what it was. I thought it was different because he had the rankings and it was like number one dude. But no, he's made more than just touch passes. There was a stretch in the third quarter that he looked off. I don't think his footwork was great. And he was throwing these high balls, but that was, an 8 or 10 pass, maybe 8 passes or something stretch. And then he seemed to like settle back down again. Because those 2 touchdowns to Lemon that were just gunned were pretty ridiculous.
They sure were. Okay, next email. Hey, Ryan. So my comment, and I'm hoping to get a response from you and maybe Connor, is why do people, including your team, have such high expectations for this team? It's clear that they don't have the depth at linebacker, in the secondary, on the offensive line, and at receiver. It's impossible to go through the year without injuries in those positions, and in this game, we were particularly hampered in 3 of those areas. It's very clear to an objective person that at best, the program is a year away. We appear to have the infrastructure in place, and every expectation should be that they're going to have a top 10 recruiting class and be more influential in the transfer portal. But this is not the year for this team. The best case scenario was 9-3. There's not a team in the country with the lack of depth we have that is going to win any games in the playoffs. Thanks, Chris and San Pedro.
Hey, Chris. Sounds like you're an excuse maker.
So before the season, I think we were all in agreement. Me, you, Chris. I don't know what Shotgun's prediction was, but we all thought 8-4.
Yeah.
And then we watched the first 4 games, and the offense looks lights out. Defense, of course, left some to be desired. After those first 4 games, call me a sucker. I was a sucker, I guess. I thought the ceiling was raised, and I could see 9-3. And maybe if something goes your way, it gets a little better. I thought the offense was good enough to lead this team to be better than I anticipated, and I did not anticipate the defense to play as poorly as they did against Illinois. Kind of everything that could have gone wrong in that game outside of the 2 forced fumbles did for them. That was a surprise to me. So I get a lot of what the emailer is saying, and they certainly lack depth at some spots. Just to give them some credit here, I mean, they're without Lane for the most part, down 2 offensive linemen. Like, the offensive depth is pretty good.
Yeah. Like you said, the offensive line and receivers, like Makai Lemon leads the nation in receiving yards, and they've shifted the whole offensive line, and it's still performing well. So how is that an issue? Like, that's not an issue. Those are not issues. Like, it's not a thing. The receivers, yeah, they don't have like a third guy. Who cares? You have the leading receiver in the country, and Lane's great, and then your tight ends are balling. So those are not like your offensive line and receivers are not preventing you from doing anything. Like that, the depth or whatever your conceived problem is not a problem. Like, those guys are playing well.
And then sorry that I thought in the second year of Danton Lynn, with all those great defensive coaches, with Kamari Ramsey out against Illinois, I know, coming back, Eric Gentry coming back, the defensive line, USC committing serious resources, Keyshawn Silver, the number 1 transfer defensive lineman in the rankings. I didn't necessarily agree with that ranking, but it just goes to show that he was a top guy. He was wanted. That was a sign of intent that USC signed him. And they land Jakeem Stewart, and they just have a lot of positive things going on defensively. We heard when we would get intel in practice, like, okay, Cameron Fountain, he's been unblockable today. And they're just really, really good signs from the defense in the offseason. So sorry that I thought that they wouldn't give up 500 yards to Illinois and only force the Illini to punt once. That is the thing that just leaves you scratching your head. They've put in so much, and I think we still think that they have the right people in place to get more out of this defense. Yeah. The fact that it, in some ways, looks like Alex Grinch, that's unconscionable to me, and that's why this Michigan game is so big. Go set the record straight. Show that you're better than what you showed against Illinois, because if that's what you are, I could see 7-5, and that would be massively disappointing.
And then, linebacker depth, like, they just have a lot of experience there, but it's not like there's a rash of injuries there. They're playing the dudes that they really like. And we talked to Rob Ryan, and he loves the way those guys, linebackers, they're not playing well. It doesn't mean there's like a lack of depth there. That's not what's causing any problems. And then the secondary had a bunch of depth that just wasn't as experienced as we saw last year, but they've had a rash of injuries there. So, yeah, a whole bunch of injuries at nickel, moving, having to play Kamari Rams out of, whatever. So that's one position group, but they had enough depth to kind of still reshuffle guys around and everything. So I just don't see depth as like the issue because they're 1 year away. That just sounds like you're making an excuse for something. Like this was the year they put a lot of resources into making this work. And our biggest questions were more on like maybe the offensive line and maybe is Jayden Maiava really the guy? And Jayden Maiava is really the guy. And he's been amazing so far. And they've played 3 Big Ten games. This isn't like you've played bad competition. So, yeah, I don't think there's excuses for this team. They should have looked better on the road at Illinois than they did. And it wasn't because some lack of depth and they're a year away.
Nailed it, guys. Okay, we've got one more, or a couple more. After watching both Lincoln Riley and Dan Lanning on the sidelines versus Penn State, I can't help but get the impression that these two men are in different categories. Riley seems like a really nice guy and a great offensive coordinator. Dan Lanning seems like a killer, a straight-up, do what it takes to be the best, get your team hyped and ready to win type of head coach. After 4 years of Riley and a worse record than Helton, is it time to admit he is not the coach we thought he was? After 4 years, we still have no defense. He can't manage the clock. We commit countless stupid penalties, and the team lacks any killer instinct or toughness. Lincoln Riley, great offensive coordinator, maybe. Head coach, no. Thoughts? Tucson Trojan.
So be fair, Tucson Trojan, most coaches suck at clock management. Like Dan Lanning's done some dumb stuff. Now he's done some really interesting things too. And they had to change a rule because of him, something he did last year. But they're different personalities, different coaches. And, Lanning's a much better coach having a ton of resources and everything working correctly. Riley came into a really bad situation. Lanning didn't. So it's just differences. But, yes, I think we're seeing Lincoln Riley continue to be an amazing offensive coordinator. This is a different situation at USC. He took over for a legend at Oklahoma, and it looked he looked like a Dan Lanning there. And now he's not looking like that because he took over a dumpster fire that you have to make everything, there's a lot of things that needed to be fixed. And to be fair, he didn't have good administration, and now I think you do, and they're doing a lot of things there. I think it's still TBD on is he going to be a great head coach. He's no question offensive mind, just one of the best we've ever seen. Head coach, we'll see. Looked a lot better at Oklahoma when you took over for a well-oiled machine. Didn't have that here, and I think he's still kind of finding his way with some of that stuff.
I do think being a CEO head coach is important, and Lanning doesn't call the defense. He's part of a brain trust with Lapoy and the other co-defensive coordinator, and then Stein calls the offense, and that just allows the head coach to be so much more engaged in the game and the flow of it, whereas Riley, when they're on offense, USC, something won't go their way, and maybe there's a bad call or something, and Riley, like, he wants to argue, and then he has to go right back to the play sheet and get the next play in. And there's a reason that the last offensive play caller to win a national championship was Jimbo Fisher with Jameis Winston all the way back in whatever year that was. By and large, if you're calling the offensive plays, you're not competing at the highest level in college football, and that's just what we've seen. So my hope with USC was that they would take the next step, and then we could have that conversation more, like once they'd been in the playoff a couple times, like, okay, being that offensive play caller in those bigger games can really hurt you. But the fact that they're not even getting there, and they're in year 4, and we'll see. The season's not over yet by any stretch. USC could make improvements and could have a really great year. I'm not saying that's not possible, but right now it doesn't look like they're trending in that direction. It's too bad. I did expect at least the floor to be a little higher for USC here in year 4 of Lincoln Riley. And if you didn't, I don't really know why you wouldn't with all the resources that they have and what he has done on the offensive side of the ball. I think that's logical.
Yeah, I agree.
Jimbo Fisher was coach of the year in 2013, so 12 years ago.
Doesn't happen much.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's definitely challenges to that, but he's elite, obviously, at that. Like, no one's had more number 1 overall picks. He's got the Heismans, and there's just a lot. Like, there's a lot to be said for him, and he's really, really good at that. And I think if you're really, really good at something, it might be hard to, give that up. And we'll see if that, changes down the road or whatever. But he's really elite at that. So you get why you'd want to keep doing it. So yeah, I don't know, but yes, it's different. And, the coaches are different situations. If USC hired Dan Lanning instead of Lincoln Riley, I don't know if the success is going to be different. But, yeah, they're different personalities. They have different ways of doing things. Every coach has their own quirks, and Dan Lanning definitely has some of those.
Can you win a big game late in the year, though? Marcus Freeman's won big games at the end of the year. Dan Lanning's won big games at the end of the year. Can you win a big game at the end of the season?
Yeah, that's fair. They got to do that. They've been really close, and they're not doing it. So that's and like I said, look, we've said this all. Part of my rant is you've had buy-in from the administrator, all the stuff that was sort of wrong when Riley took over. And to be honest, Mike Bone, Brandon Sosna, before they went and hired a guy like Riley, they really tried to fix a lot of stuff in the department because there was so much wrong. But I think it was only scratching the surface. There's still more stuff wrong, and a lot of stuff has been fixed over the last few years, and there's still a whole bunch of stuff. There's just been systematic, just the way that USC and I think UCLA, there's very similar stuff. It's hard because you've had all these advantages of being in LA, and it should be a privilege to play here and all that stuff. All that's changed now. You got to pay dudes. You got there's more that's involved in making a successful team than what worked naturally for USC and even UCLA. And so I think you have an administration that's really poured a bunch of resources into trying to make this better. And it's still not there yet, but you're getting there. And I think it's just sort of the way it is. You have to try to raise the bar each and every time and change the way you're doing things. And I think it's just been slower that this feels more like year 1 or 2 in a Lincoln Riley rebuild than year 4, which you expected it to be better. And I'm not saying that's all on Lincoln Riley. There's things that I think he's made mistakes on. He's admitted things about not recruiting locally more. And why did it take that long to bring in a real GM? And so, but now they're there. I think you're on the right track here, but it just feels weird that you're in year 4, sort of building on it. So when Kristen St. Pedro was you're always a year away, I'm not, this is year 4. They've fixed a lot of stuff. You spend a lot of money. There's a lot of resources on this. I see this roster, and you look at what's there. It's a win now kind of situation. And the way everything else sort of fell into place, some of these other teams that you thought were going to be great weren't looking as great. No excuses. This is not they're a year away because of depth or anything like that. That's bull. Just go win.
I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth, but the reason why we both picked them to be 8-4, and then after the 4 games we thought they would be better, it's because the offense has been amazing. You're allowed to make changes to your prediction after you
didn't
see
think
what
the offense would be
the
elite.
games look like.
Yeah.
And so
I didn't think we'd say Jayden Maiava is the number 1 quarterback in the country. Well, that's the case now. Okay, well now it's a different ball game.
That should lead to USC being better this
Yes.
year, and if the defense really hinders that, and they have this elite offense, that's a big issue.
Yeah.
We've got a text from Marcel. It was obvious Ramsey was missing from the secondary. How much preparation goes into the backup for games like this? Who had the green dot helmet on the defense? Fight on, Marcel.
I think Desmond Stevens had it when Ramsey went out, and Ramsey's such a huge part of what they do. He doesn't come out, so I don't think Kevin Longstreet was ready. I don't think D. Reddick was really ready. It was a huge issue, and certainly affected them negatively. But I do think in that situation, with all the resources that they have, you would just hope that one guy being out wouldn't lead to what we saw, where they'd be able to fill the dam with some, or stop the leaking in other ways, and they just didn't do it.
And I think the one thing Lincoln Riley said, and I believe it, that it wasn't just that your best defensive player was out. It was such a last second thing, so you couldn't really prepare for it. And I don't think he was using it as an excuse, but it definitely made things more challenging. But in those situations, it's it's a sudden change play. The offense turns the ball over inside their 10. Are you going to give the defense an excuse we weren't expecting to go back in there? No, you have to prepare for it. You have to be ready for a sudden change. If I say, defense, get on the field, goal line right now, you're like, crap, I thought we were going to score. But that happens in football, and you have to go out there and be ready. And this was a thing where, you lost him last minute, and you weren't preparing for this, and maybe you had some game plan around, whatever it was. like you just have to next man up. They say that, all say that. So you have to figure out a way. That's a sudden change thing. I think that did make it more challenging because you expected to have him play and then he didn't. And it's football. Like some guy gets hurt the first play of the game, and you're like, oh, now what? The quarterback goes down, whatever. I mean, there's stuff like that happens a lot, and you can't let it derail the whole game.
I
go back to a quote my dad always says, don't tell me how rough the water is, just bring the boat in. You got to figure out a way and find a way to win. Yeah,
the USC did not bring the boat in Champaign.
No, they
not
did
that there's
not.
Like a lot
the
of
boat
lakes
got
there,
lost
right?
at sea.
They sure did.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some YouTube questions again. Apologies. I am not getting any YouTube comments, but I've got some here that Ryan, thankfully, he starred them for me. So we've got a question from Damina. Is Michigan a program-defining game for USC this decade?
This decade? I think it's a program-defining game for the season. But for like the rest of the decade, if they lose, I don't exactly know what the repercussions would be. So I have a hard time talking about the decade. But for the season, I do think it's a season-defining game. I think
it's for the season for sure. And I get where you're going with it. That this could be like, be hyperbolic or whatever. But as far as like, if you're gonna bet on Lincoln Riley's long-term success at USC, like this could be a really important game for that. Because if you can beat Michigan at home, certainly, team that won national championship a couple of years ago, team you should have beat last year and didn't, bouncing back from the Illinois game, I think you can get on a better trajectory. The fans feel better. And it still might be like a 9-3 thing, like if you lose to Oregon and you lose to Notre Dame. You lose to Michigan, and it's like now 8-4 is probably the cap, and you're going to have to do some, you got to beat Nebraska on the road. You got to beat Iowa. Even if you lose to just Oregon and Notre Dame, one more screw up, and now you're 7-5. Like then I think like Riley's, with all the stuff that's been done, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Riley. So I could see, I don't know about decade, but for like Riley's future at USC, I'm not saying like anything, like they could go out and beat Notre Dame and Oregon after losing to Michigan. Like that's obviously that stuff can happen. But as far as trajectory goes, like I could see where the commenter is talking about, where it's going to be tough to recover from this season if you lose to Michigan, and that's going to be a tough one. So yeah, I think I do think it's a really important game. You don't want to go too crazy on it, but I could see where you're talking that you're losing that one. Like 7-5's in play. You beat Michigan, and I don't think 7-5's in play.
Base God 33 says, Ryan, you're still talking like they have a shot against Michigan. USC is probably going to be favored against Michigan.
Yeah.
They absolutely.
They were a touchdown favorite against Illinois. They'll be a favorite against Michigan
in that game. That should be a winnable game for USC, even though Michigan's good.
Yeah. You got to beat some good teams. It's at home. USC's a pretty good team. Illinois, pretty good team. They played better at home and beat them after getting shellacked on the road. Yeah, go win the game. Like that's what the heck are you paying all these people for? Go win the damn game.
Put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
We've got a question from Jeff. Any local high school games to watch this weekend with potential recruits or commits?
Oh, Gerard sends our list out. I don't know.
Yeah, I can pull up Gerard's list. It's a long one. Do you want me to?
Yeah, just give us some highlights or something, or
the best games.
It's like anything that
stands out.
Friday night, Bosco at J. Sarah. Bosco has some guys. Yeah. Mater Day, Orange Lutheran. It's the first week of the Trinity League. What else? If you want to see Deshaun Raydeau, he's playing at Oxnard if you're up in that neck of the woods. Sarah at Sierra Canyon. Both teams have some guys who USC's looking at. Santa Margarita at Servite. Same with that game. Quentin Hale will be playing a 2027 receiver against St. Paul. Probably could have left that one off, but Hale's really fun to watch. I enjoyed watching him a couple weeks ago. What else do we got here? That's probably the extent of it. Loyola at Sherman Oaks, Notre Dame. Luke Weaver will be playing in that game. So there's a good amount of games this week if you're looking for some USC commits in action. But just look at everyone in the 2026 class, either high school, then Google the game. You'll find something.
Love it.
Cool. Thank you.
We've got a question from Alan in STL. Did y'all see Dave Portnoy's nasty comments about USC before the Illinois game, or Illinois O-line coach's comments after the game? USC has a ton of bulletin board material. Will we use it?
I didn't see Portnoy's thing, but I saw Shotgun tweet about the offensive line coach from Illinois. Let me see if I can pull it up. He said, his name is Bart Miller. He said, obviously, I think everybody in the stadium knew who won that line of scrimmage, including USC. We're not going to be able to out-athlete USC, so put them in our world now and in the phone booth and go from there. It's exactly what happened. So, yeah, there should be some bulletin board material, and that gets back to what we were saying earlier, Ryan. This Michigan game is huge. How do you respond after getting punched in the mouth?
Yeah. And I don't know, like, bulletin boards usually, like, we want to beat this team. Illinois already pushed USC around, so there's no, like, oh, we're going to get you. Like, no, you're not playing them anymore. So there's no like, we're going to get revenge. Like, that was your opportunity to try to push Illinois around. They pushed you around. You can respond to that. Like, you can be like, yeah, they can say whatever they want now. They pushed you around. Like, what are you going to say? No, you didn't. Like, yeah, you did. Are you going to get pushed around again? Or are you going to, like, push back? So, yeah, rub some dirt on it and push the next team you're going to see around. So I wouldn't say bulletin board material. Portnoy, I heard a little bit of stuff. Like, I've never been like a Barstool guy. I don't know much about him, and they're putting him on the air because there's like younger people involved. And I think someone in the chat said, like, responding to like Pat McAfee at ESPN, like he's going to be like but he's more of like like McAfee's, he does his own show. He went to West Virginia, but he's trying to be more like, I don't want to say journalist, but he's more into like, he's being an analyst, where Portnoy is like, I support Michigan football and I, whatever, and I eat pizza, whatever he does. But yeah, I think he said something about West Coast, schools being soft or wussies or whatever, something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but if you really care about, people are like, oh, what, did you hear what Paul Feinbaum said? It's like, that's like their jobs is like say stuff that's going to make you talk about them and retweet their stuff. So I really wouldn't worry about what Dave Portnoy says.
We've got a question from Fight on Natties. Why doesn't Lincoln address the atrocious biased refereeing? It's just getting worse.
Okay.
Ryan, I'll let you answer.
I think there's atrocious is one thing, and I think you very good argument for that. Bias is like, I think you have to be really good to be biased, and I think there's just a lot of incompetence when it comes to officiating. I think Lincoln Riley talked about this where, if there's a trend going your way, it's hard to buck. So we didn't see any hands to the face ones, but I mean,
Silver could have been called
Thank
for
God.
that. He had it was after the play. He got his hands up in the face. He just got called for unnecessary roughness.
Yeah,
but I get what you're saying.
They missed stuff. Like, if they were really biased, they would have called that, right? Is that a face mask? Like, hey, he's grabbing his face mask. Like, we got a photo of it. Like, I don't know. What are you going to do? The Illinois guy put his hands on Marcellus Williams' face, but didn't keep it there. Marcellus kept it there, and then you're going to get a call. Like, I saw the thing. Jean-Ray Reed wandered like 5 yards downfield. Like, it probably can get called more.
That play killed me.
But USC's making a lot of mistakes. They're certainly not getting help by the referees, but I don't know if this is all, I don't think this is all some referee thing. You got to be better. You got to be more disciplined and not screw up, and they're screwing up. So I don't know.
USC also has the reputation of being penalized all the time, and that doesn't help them. I can't remember one call in that Illinois game that it was like, oh, that was terrible. Like DJ Harvey grabbed on that last drive. Marcellus Williams had the face mask. Keyshawn Silver, that was a clear 15-yard penalty. Cameron Fountain jumps off sides. DeCarlos Nicholson jumps off sides on an extra point. There was one other one that I'm not remembering, but like all those were real legit penalties. They got to just stop making mistakes.
Yeah, you can't do that. And I get it. Like, so the Pete Carroll, like the Pac-12, there was stuff going on. The Pete Carroll era, there was a stretch where USC was the most penalized team and USC's opponents were the least penalized team. And they did statistical analysis like that's an impossibility. So, like, yes, there was probably trying to even the playing field because USC was destroying everybody. And maybe there was like, we're going to call more stuff on them. But I don't think that's the case here. I just think you have incompetent refereeing a lot of times. But also you're making a lot of mistakes. So, you're not doing yourselves any favors. Just play cleaner. And if you're playing clean and then keep getting a lot of calls, then it'll be like, hey, there's a problem here. Like, we've cleaned stuff up. But yeah,
the big general one too. That was the right call.
Right. I think there was 2 guys that were downfield.
Yeah, he was in no man's land.
Downfield too.
Which sucks. And I went off this on my rant, and he probably never practiced that play because their starters are mostly practicing the trick play. And I think my thing is, like, if you're going to call a trick play with your backup center, if he's just kind of being a decoy, and just all you got to tell him, like, hey, you cannot go downfield. Like, there's no reason for you to go downfield. The play is going to be behind the line of scrimmage for a while, and then we're going to, throw it deep. Just don't wander off the line of scrimmage. Like, you got to let them know or whatever. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes there, but yeah, they look like legit penalties. Just don't commit 8, 9, 10 penalties a game. And maybe 1 or 2 is like questionable or whatever, but it's that's self-inflicted more than biased refereeing. And
then we've got a question from Facebook. Thank you to our Facebook viewers. We kind of talked about this entire podcast, but Fight On from Houston asked, USC has the players. Can the coaches fix defense issues?
I think that there will be defensive improvements. I don't know how big they'll be, but we all agree that the staff is good, right? We all agree? Maybe you're not sure on Rob Ryan?
No, I like
right? Like, how can he not be good based on his experience? But for whatever reason, we're not seeing the linebacker play that we expected. I talked with Shotgun a little bit about this. Like, we both believe in the defensive staff. They've just put so much into this. They have to get better results. They understand that. And I don't really know what they have up their sleeve in the secondary, particularly at cornerback. But outside of that, they have enough players to be better. So I do think they can improve.
Yeah, I remember just telling a story when they hired Matt Entz, and he was a national championship winning FCS head coach to be your linebacker coach, like obviously overqualified. And he comes in, and the way he discussed it was, I'm the head coach of the linebackers. And I was just like, all right, they're going to be good. And they were good. And Rob Ryan came in, and NFL defensive coordinator and, all the stuff that he has in accolades. And I was like, yep, they're going to be good. And they haven't really been that good. So, no, I still believe in the staff and everything. And maybe it's just, it was easier to take some really experienced guys that maybe were underperforming and get them to play at a higher level. But I thought the linebackers played well last year. And this year it's just, there's lacking. It's just not, they got to clean up so many plays. And if a guy gets through a gap in the defensive line, like, you want that linebacker not taken out of the play by the first blocker that comes by. Like, you want to see that thing get shut down, and we're just not seeing it that much. I think Gentry can make some spectacular plays, but you need to get in there, get your nose dirty in the run game, and I need to see more of that from anyone playing linebacker. Cool.
Yeah, that's all we got.
That's all we got?
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, good stuff. Sorry we did this a little early. It's a bye week. So we're started at 10 a.m. on the West Coast time, 1 hour after the kickoff of last Saturday's game. So you should have been ready for the early. Exactly. We're doing this early because of the big noon kickoff or whatever. But everyone's scattering. So we wanted to get this done early. Connor's gonna head to practice. I'm going out to the desert for a couple days. India, I don't know where she goes. She's going to 9-0 or something, but. 9-0 got the breakfast special.
Right, exactly.
Few mimosas. I do love me some mimosas.
You do?
I do like mimosas. They're good. I'm not a big Bloody Mary guy, so I don't really like tomato juice. I don't actually like food in my drinks. So, like, if it's a mojito muddled, like, I don't want that. I don't want celery stalks and bacon in my drinks.
You just want to drink.
I just like to drink liquid. I don't like pulp in my orange juice. Boba things. I don't want little balls and stuff in my drink. I don't know if you guys like it.
I actually am not a big boba fan of, like, I don't get the boba.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to, like,
people love that
it.
stuff. I don't really get into it. So I'm not a Bloody Mary person, but I do love me some mimosas. So that's my morning drink of choice.
I love it.
Airport lounge, getting ready for the flight, having a mimosa, like, it's pretty good.
There you go.
India's like, I'm not a big drinker. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but yeah. Sweet.
killed it.
I think we're good. Yeah. Thanks to everyone for tuning in and jumping in the chats and sending in emails and text messages and calling in and all that. It's been a lot of fun. Enjoy the bye week. We'll be back next week.
Yep.
Doing a little Michigan previews. We won't have a Tunnel Vision show on Thursday or Sunday since there's no
Bye week.
No game. We got the bye week. But big bye week plans, India?
Probably just hang out with some friends. That's about it.
Nice.
I think I'm going to USC women's basketball practice as well. Check on the gang, see how things are going.
Yes.
Nice.
And then hang with some friends, and that's about it.
Do they look at you as the
big
enemy
plans.
now that you're like on the media side
No,
of
no,
things?
no, no, not at all. No.
You sure?
I'm positive.
Okay.
Maybe deep down, but nothing that was expressed. No.
Good. Yeah. Connor, you're off to a wedding?
Off to a wedding.
Oh my God, another wedding. I have to say, I've never seen somebody go to so many weddings as Connor does. So you're doing something right to get invited.
I think it's the age, right?
Yeah.
Like 30-ish. Like, yeah, I used to
That's
go
true,
used to
that's
go to a lot
true.
of weddings back then. And now
I got lucky too. 2 weddings during the fall, and they're on both bye weeks. How the heck did that happen?
That's
Nice.
perfect.
but unfortunately it takes away your anything.
Yeah, true.
The relaxation of the bye week.
Yeah. Now you get to go. But your sister's getting married, so congrats to her.
Thank you.
Aw,
Yep,
congrats.
thank you.
It's going back to Franklin, Mass.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very
Red eye tonight, so if you're at the
Have
airport
a good
tonight,
time.
come say hi. Just kidding. That's what we say at the football games. I guess not just kidding. You can, but I don't know why anyone would be taking a red eye.
if you have to be on the red eye and heading to Franklin, Massachusetts tomorrow.
Just say hi to Connor.
Yeah, go
Sure,
see
there's a
that.
lot of people in our audience.
Sweet.
All right. Thank you guys.
Who's
Thanks.
doing the sign off?
Ryan, you got it. You started it.
All right. Well, it's going to wrap it up. We got Automatic running the show. She's our point guard. Triple-double. He's a threat from anywhere. Headed to Massachusetts. I'm the boss man, Ryan Abraham, going on my rants. Old guy yelling at clouds, telling people no excuses. Just go out and win the game. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next time.